TJ is on the road to or in Kansas somewhere. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have an opening for one alternate position, but otherwise all 7 regular positions and 2 alternates are in place, which is something to be celebrated. Dylan, do you want to just call the roll? How about we do that? Or you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Shannon Solman.
Here.
Andrea Sutella is missing. TJ Maltese is excused. Tim Beeson.
Don't
Here.
have voice.
There we go. Cheryl Klein. Hopefully she'll be here. Judy Karnick.
Here.
Robin Kovatz. We've seen Robin. Jeff Hinshaw.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Disney dropped.
This is the November 22nd regular meeting of Osac. First item on the agenda is we have one alternate position available, but otherwise this is the biggest group we've had in a while, which is great. Because, oh, there she is, our secretary.
Wow.
You got the time zones correct and everything, Andrea. Good job. We just called the roll, so let it show that Andrea's here too. Andrea, can you see everyone who's here? So Jeff Hinshaw is here.
No.
Tim is here. Shannon is here. Judy Karnick is here. And you're here at this point. TJ's been excused. Cheryl Klein just came online. So we have a quorum. All right. All right, next item is the approval of the minutes of October 25th. Those are in your packet. We had a very short regular meeting and longer retreat minutes taken directly from the flip charts of that meeting. I need a motion to approve the minutes of October 25th.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
I second.
Second by Judy. So motion by Tim, second by Judy. Any discussion? I'd just like to say we're going to talk a little bit more about the retreat and what you feel might be helpful to add to those notes later, but let the minute, otherwise the minutes will stand as read. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
That looks, Jeff, did you vote? So Jeff, you'll be voting.
I didn't
tonight.
vote. You need to, you would need to let me know whether you want
Yep.
me. because
So
last
you'll be
not to, so,
you'll be
I'm sorry?
voting tonight.
okay, all right.
Okay.
So how many people are voting tonight?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including 1 alternate. So 6 regular members and 1 alternate. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, Parks and Rec Advisory Board update. You have the minutes in your packet from 2 pair of meetings. Any comments on those?
Nancy, did you want to do public comment?
I have a public comment. Why? Oh,
Oh,
it's part of the agenda review.
And agenda review.
Agenda review, sorry. How did I jump over that? Okay. Agenda review first. Any changes to the agenda? Shannon,
Could I get put a RIM fee? I don't know how to word it. I need to be under new business. And I would like to discuss a conversation I had with the executive director of RIMFI about a possible partnership in the coming years to do some more
work.
concrete trail stuff with them.
Okay, any objections to putting that under new business? Okay, so Shannon, that will be number 11 under new business, okay?
Perfect.
All right. Okay, anything else? Changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, public comment on non-agenda items. Dylan, do we have members in the audience besides Melody, Kurt, and Bill? You're muted.
Yeah, Corey Satella's in the audience. He's got his hand raised, and also Seth Tyler from Parks and Rec.
Oh, good. Well, bring Seth over to the regular meeting.
I've been trying to promote him as a panelist for the last few minutes, and it's not
doing-
working.
Okay,
Not doing it.
okay. Corey, what have you got?
Let me see if it'll work for him.
Okay.
Yep.
Looks like he's over.
Hi, can you hear me? It's Corey.
We can. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Corey.
I didn't see it on the agenda for tonight, but I think it was at the last meeting that there was some discussion about the 284 Crystal Park Road property. That's the property adjacent to the Panhandle and the Wildcat Gulch.
Familiar.
And I wondered if it was going to be on the agenda tonight. I had something I wanted to mention about that, but I can save it until it comes up as the agenda, or I could say it now.
You know what? It's not on the agenda, so why don't you say it now?
Okay. Well, I wanted to mention that I had some inquiries through the Great Outdoors Colorado, GOCO, about potential funding sources for such an acquisition. It came up as a priority for Osac that we want to try to figure out the access issues along Crystal Park Road. And it seemed like that acquisition would tick a lot of boxes. I talked to GOCO and they were very interested in the project. They mentioned that funding trailheads and trail access is part of what they would do. And so it seemed like it would be a project that might fit. And so I'm not sure how to take the next step with this, but it'd be great to have a statement of support from Osac to move ahead and maybe get some staff support to do a bit more investigation there.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot more investigation to be done. Anyone else?
Yeah. And do you
Questions
mind if
for
I comment on that?
Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah. So Corey, Roy, Cheney, and I have been looking into this and are working at finding a path forward as far as the funding, how that would be achieved, not just Osac, but Parks and Rec, and maybe the Transportation Board potentially. So it's in the works.
Okay, so in works, but nothing to report today. Is that right, Dylan?
Correct.
And I know that, Shannon, go ahead.
I have a question, and I'm curious from Dylan and Corey and Roy and everybody, why is GOCO being approached on behalf of an open space committee or Manitou when we had no clue that was even happening?
I definitely didn't approach them on behalf of Manitou or Osac. I
But
made
to
the
purchase
inquiry-
it as open space land.
Possibly for acquisition of the property.
Do you see how that's weird?
Can you explain more? What's weird?
That GOCO is being approached to buy a piece of open space property and we had no clue that they were being approached?
Okay,
And so you find it weird that I had that conversation with GOCO?
Without us even knowing. There's no way I'm the only one who thinks this is a problem. Am I?
So is your got a question for me, Shannon?
Right. How is this okay? I guess it's to the group. and to staff. How is this even okay?
I would like to comment on that. Yeah,
Okay.
I actually, I am curious as to what kinds of properties GoCo is used for, like that funding, and I thought that that would be a good source of funding. And so I had had a couple of conversations with people just about like finding out what that grant covers. And that includes talking to some of the people at GoCo, and Corey and I had talked about it too. And so he knows Tila, who is married to Jeff Mormon, who lives in Manitou, and she works for them. So I think it's completely legit to find out if that's even possible. So you know, it's part of our investigation process, and I would like to actually understand even further, you know, what kinds of properties we could purchase with the GoCo grant. So I think that's awesome. You know, it's just doing due diligence. And so the question I think becomes, you know, do we want to use that kind of aside funding? Now it's a big conversation, and you had, you know, looked into the prices on that property and stuff, and then didn't approach the owner because you thought, well, I would like to, okay, I would like to clarify that and have more of a conversation. Do we want to put this on an agenda item for next month, or, you know, in January or whatever? Or do you guys want to talk about it now? I mean,
We need to clear the air
Okay. Well,
now,
let's-
I think. I said in a meeting, several meetings ago, we had a very in-depth conversation. I've had 2 phone calls with Mr. Fuller, the property owner. I said that I walked the property with Matt Carpenter, and I said that me and Tim walked the property. So I don't understand, and I've heard it from several people now, Roy Cheney, one of them, that we haven't approached the property owner, and that is just not true. I
okay,
brought
well,
it up.
so Shannon, in the minutes from,
And I asked if
well, what you said was,
somehow we could talk to Corey while he had his arm in a sling to maybe talk about another easement to get us up there.
yeah, so I was just reading through the minutes, and yeah, maybe that is what happened. So I apologize for that, because what I understood you saying was that you had called the real estate agency, and then you called a second real estate agency that they had listed with it, and then you didn't want to insult the landowner with a lowball offer, and so you had never called them. Now I would love to know if you want to. Could you tell us more about what the conversations were like with them?
I mean, does anybody else remember me talking in depth about this? Tim,
Yes.
I do. I remember that, Shannon.
Right.
Okay,
So
I'm going to stop the conversation right here, because what I see, a couple of things. So first, there was a miscommunication. Shannon has talked to Mr. Fuller directly a couple of times. I would say that anybody can approach GoCo anytime to ask questions. We've obviously used GoCo to fund properties that we've purchased before. So we've been down this road before. Anybody's entitled to talk to them at any time, but Corey, we'd really like to be in the loop, and we appreciate you letting us know this now. I'd like to put this on the agenda for our next meeting. Is there anything else we need to clear up? We now have an understanding that Shannon has talked to Mr. Fuller twice. Shannon, or what's your name? Corey, you've talked to GoCo about funding something. We know that Parks and Rec or parking has had some discussion around that. It sounds like for this next meeting, all those players should be at the table. And maybe we need.
Can I just clarify something, Nancy?
Sure.
This has not yet been a topic of discussion at the parking board.
Okay.
But as you know, I am on the transportation and parking board, and I have an interest. I think there's like a parking solution that's possible, but we haven't brought it up at the board yet. And then the only other thing I wanted to say, and really to respond to Shannon's point, is this was a really non-binding investigatory discussion, and I took that on precisely because of what you said at the meeting, which was that you had no interest in pursuing it, and you suggested that someone else, maybe Corey, should pursue it. That's what I heard you say.
That is not what I said, Corey, and you know that.
Well, that's what I heard you say. And so that's what drove me to do that. But in any case, it's completely non-binding. It was totally investigatory to try to get some information that might help our community. And that's why I did it. And I don't think it's weird.
Okay, Corey or Shannon?
Could I just reiterate, and I've told the board this, I don't know how it's lost. I talked to Mr. Fuller and he said, bring us a proposed easement and we would talk money. That's what I brought up. I talked to Matt Carpenter, who lives adjacent to it. I know you're shaking your head, Corey, but I said that. Tim and I walked it as well.
I'll go back and watch the video.
And we decided, he said he wanted his building area on the other side. I did not say I wasn't interested in pursuing it. I said I wasn't going to offend him by saying I wanted to put an easement through his building site. But someone else is more than welcome to do that, or show us an easement and I'll take it to him.
Okay, I think we all have actually the same goal here, at least as far as getting an easement to help us with the trail coming down that end of Red Mountain. That's more sustainable than the set of stairs we have on there now. So we know that we have those things in common. How to move forward, I'd like to have a clear discussion on when we don't have the agenda that we have tonight and don't have other people in the audience waiting, okay? So
Could we get Roy to come to that meeting too?
Pardon?
Could we get Roy and possibly Denise to come to that meeting?
Absolutely. And maybe we want a face-to-face meeting. I'll see what we can do.
If it's
Okay.
land acquisition, it might be an executive session.
That's true. That's true. Dylan?
Yeah, so the current conversation is about acquiring the entire property, not requesting an easement. Just want to clarify that.
Right. Yep. Okay. The important thing, as I see it now, is keeping everyone else in the loop on this. Nobody's going to move forward until we all agree how we're going to move forward. Okay? All right. Let's
Thank
move
you.
on. Any other comments from the audience? Okay. Parks and Rec Advisory Board update. You have 2 sets of minutes in your packet. Any questions or comments on those minutes? I was interested in their discussion about a kiosk at the library. Does anybody know what kind of kiosk they're talking about? No, I thought maybe Seth is here. And I had another question about their minutes, but it's not that important. Just a term I hadn't seen before. Okay.
I'm not positive, but I think it's referring to their signage.
Yeah, the signage at the library. Is that right? So Parab is involved because it's considered their park space around the library? Is that it? Well, okay, we'll assume that.
Hey, Nancy, real quick.
Yep.
I talked to Danu at the budget meeting.
Uh-huh.
I just gave her a quick heads up that we were talking about that the Cheyenne Village lot. I just said, hey, it's not even coming up yet, but just so you know, we're kind of discussing the fees in lieu and all that. And I told her idea of trying to get that for a park by the creek.
Uh-huh.
I also told her about what the creek walk down by Fields Park, just so she knew that we were looking at that property.
Great.
That little piece out of Tim knows more about it. And then I also told her about what we were doing with the Bill Bauer Park connection.
Okay.
So
Good.
just so you guys know, I'm letting them know what we're doing too, when it has to do with them.
Great. And they do have copies. They get copies of our agenda just like we do theirs, but that's great. All right. Anything else on Parks and Rec Advisory Board? Para. Okay. New business, Osac retreat notes. So those were in your packet, and Andrea transcribed those from the flip charts that from the retreat that Denise facilitated. And I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. Mainly that under the last item there, under, she calls it what projects if completed, and there's a exhaustive list there and a parking lot, and then she has priorities, identified 2022 priorities. And she has number 1, established trail maintenance program, trail management plan. Number 2, management plan for small discrete places. We talked about those. And then there's some budget numbers thrown in there around making sure that we have the money to go to the open space conference, money for potentially for the Black Canyon. I just wanted to let you know that we have, much larger budgetary amounts for things like trail maintenance, development, some of those kinds of things, and that this is in no ways meant to be some kind of final list of priorities for 2022, except I would say number 1 and number 2, not necessarily in that order, are certainly 2 things that emerged out of that, out of our retreat that were important or got a lot of votes. Any other comments on the retreat? Okay.
Yeah, should we,
Sorry.
Nancy, should we, at some point, have somebody possibly clarify that and clean it up a little bit so it.
Clarify what, where?
The overall identified priorities. And right now, this is the public record of those things, and it's really,
Right, and it only has 2 down. I guess
Yeah.
what I want to know, does anybody have any disagreement with those 2?
not those 2, but we probably need to see, we need to talk about or figure out at some point what those priorities are and have those identified in the minutes.
Well, and another one, I don't know why she didn't give it a number on here, was we agreed we're going to catalog the open space parcels this year. And we agreed that we have to develop our SOPs, our standard operating procedures. So those are all priorities too. So maybe at our next meeting, I'll bring a formalized list and we
Yeah,
can
okay.
see exactly what we want to do there. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a presentation by the Pollinator group. And it looks like everybody's in the audience. So I'll turn it over to Melody, Curtis, and Maggie.
Hello, it's so good to be back. Happy holidays. I know we're going to be heading into that real soon. So this is a really exciting time for all of us. So thank you for welcoming me back. And I heard a comment you made earlier, Nancy, about keeping us all in the loop. And that's really part of the reason why I'm here. Because I'm sure you've heard by now that the Skylar Beck and the City of Manitou Springs did sign an MOU with Amy Yarger and the Butterfly Pavilion to be our most recent Pollinator District partners, which includes open space. So this is pretty exciting. But you also really stepped up to the plate as a stakeholder back in 2019. So that's kind of like keeping us in the loop and keeping you updated with our progress. And where do we go from here? I know that back in 2019, Amy Yarger came down and Dylan and I and Tim Beeson and walked around in all the open spaces just to look at what's going on down in Manitou. And I know in the packet that I sent some information that you all should have, which is really the Butterfly Pavilion's model that they use for areas of evaluation and the guidelines as to what a pollinator district really is about. And that was part of the intention of purpose of Amy coming down in 2019, was to walk in an open space and do a site assessment. That's one of the first categories. And of course, we received a very high rating because it's really beautiful, as you all know. It's just really healthy biosphere out there. Since that time, and now that the city and all of you are on board as Pollinator District partners, and with the Manitou Pollinators, we also have some of the same interests about how do we proceed from here? What are the next steps with becoming a certified pollinator district? And when you look through the material I sent, it says that in order to successfully attain pollinator district designation, a community, and that's where all the partnerships come in, all the stakeholders, we need to score 196 out of 280 points. So that's what's so cool about their program, is we get some metrics, some points there about what to follow. And then seeking certification as a pollinator district should achieve 8 or high on the categories. So that gets into the areas of evaluations again. So why am I bringing this up for you is because the Manitou Pollinators were generously gifted, I'm going to say, access to Mr. Bill Kerner's 35 acres that are along Inman Trail to help us develop, to take those next steps where, you know, it's the site context. And this is where it segues really nicely back into open space, where we could go on a shared journey here of achieving these steps together. There's pre-design and assessment, ties into site design, which ties into the reason why I have Bill and Maggie Gaddis she's the executive director for the Colorado Native Plant Society, and Curtis Nims, he's an excellent citizen scientist person that assists Amy to, or Maggie, in their plant IDing and the work that they have to do for the Colorado Native Plant Society. So Bill and I were walking on his 35 acres, and Maggie and Curtis came with us, and I'm looking around and I'm like, well, how do we really achieve these next steps for the areas of evaluation, right? About how do you really look at the special status of vegetation and what are our native plant communities? That's one of the next metrics we have to follow. And then it's conserving and using native plants, and then providing ample forage for native pollinators, and then for honeybee colonies. So, you know, I think I probably scratched my head, but then I'm thinking, well, I'm going to reach out to Maggie and Kurt, because they really are the leading experts in the state of Colorado to help assist me and the Manitou Pollinators with the 35 acres. And when we were up there, we're looking around, and I'm looking at open space, and I'm looking at Black Canyon across the highway, and I'm like, well, could we go over there? And what about over here by Red Mountain? Which led to a conversation with Dylan, which led to this meeting. And Dylan, Maggie, Curtis, and I met together and walked in Black Canyon just recently to just talk about this and to present it to you, to keep you in the loop, to update you with where we're at, and to ask you to join us in this journey really of doing some really great plant IDing, and how do we continue to build as partners this pollinator district, and how do we continue to improve pollinator conservation and plant conservation in light of the climate crisis that we're in. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie and let her talk about her ideas about how to help me, the Manitou Pollinators, achieve it for our 35 acres, but how we could include you in that, and that we would like to ask you to really, I think someone said a letter of support, that would be great, but just really permission I'd like you to think about joining us with permission to all the other open spaces, that we could do this all together as partners, because we really do need one another. It does take a community, believe me. So I'll turn it over to Maggie. Thank you.
Thanks, Melody. I hope everyone can hear me okay. So I've lived in Colorado Springs for about 7 years, and I recently became the executive director, first ever, of the Colorado Native Plant Society. And prior to that, I was volunteering, and you might be familiar with my prior work with RMFI. I developed and implemented the RMFI Citizen Science Program. So following from that, during which time we were doing revegetation monitoring, I really turned to the Colorado Native Plant Society to do what Melody just said, to help me connect with the native plants and to build a volunteer force
Maggie?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a lot of noise coming from your
Hey.
side.
I know I can't really do anything about that. I'm sorry. I'm already on vacation. But if you can understand my words, that would be, then I'm going to proceed. And I also prepared a document that you read with the nuts and bolts of it. I'm sorry. As long as you can hear me, and I'll try to be as close to the microphone as possible.
Thank you.
So I turned to the Colorado Native Plant Society to help me connect with like botanically minded volunteers, and it really made my academic research a great success. And now I have made this my primary work. And the mission of the Colorado Native Plant Society is to further the knowledge, appreciation, and conservation of native plants and habitats of Colorado through education, stewardship, and advocacy. And so what that looks like on the ground is Kurt and I and many volunteers in our chapter. We have 130 members in the Southeast chapter of Colorado Native Plant Society, which is a statewide organization, I will mention. We gather together to go on botany hikes, to have speakers about our local ecosystems and plants. And in COVID times, we really connected virtually and started to think about how can we, like, what service do we provide as a volunteer organization? And what we really hope to do for Manitou Open Space is to just give our heart and soul to native plants upon which pollinators are dependent, and of course we are also dependent. And so Kurt and I go out and we're engaging with land managers and private landowners to really think about how we can extend, a city effort like a BioBlitz to our private properties and to additional communities. So we already support the City of Colorado Springs City Nature Challenge and BioBlitz efforts, and we want to do that for you as well. And what this would look like is the volunteer coordination, which I'll let Kurt discuss. And we want to be able to interact on the landscape seasonally, to conduct plant inventories using iNaturalist, which is a citizen science technology tool. That's an app you put on your phone and you take pictures and you crowdsource plant identification efforts. And we went out with Dylan and he got this experience firsthand for a little while with us. And then also, the biggest bottleneck in this environment for us is to restore the seed bank and to gain access to seed collection opportunities that can then feed back into our pollinator district. So to restore brownfields and landscapes that are degraded. And so in addition to working on the plant inventory, we hope to be able to start to restore the seed bank by engaging volunteers in the seed collection and sharing the seeds around to our residents and landowners, so that overall we can be making a difference in the ecological restoration of these landscapes as well. And I'll give it away to Kurt now. He's the chapter chair, and he would really be at the hands of the volunteer activities, and I will be there, of course, as a participant. And I didn't see a chat in this conversation, but you're free to send me any questions or raise your hand after. My email is coloradonativeplantssociety@gmail.com.
Okay, so I went out with Melanie and Maggie, and we walked the property that starts with the Intamin trailhead at Spring and Ruxton to look at Bill Kerner's property that we were going to inventory the plants. And my job was to come up with a kind of an outline of how we would do that. And our goal is to go out and provide a list of all the plants that are on this property. And that would be the trees, shrubs, grasses, and flowering plants, both native and non-native. And then if we can figure out a methodology, we're going to try and count those plants. So we will visit a volunteer group, probably mostly Southeast chapter members from the Native Plant Society and some people from the Pollinator District. We'll go out each month from April through September, and we're going to photograph and note down every plant that we can find. And hopefully by the end of the year, we will have 80 to 90, maybe 95% of the plants that exist in that area or grow during the season. You have to go out frequently, at least every month, in order to catch up with the plants that tend to grow up, flower, and they're gone by the next time you come out. So if you don't come out, if you only come out every couple of months or 2 or 3 times a year, you're going to miss what the plants are. So we would go out and walk this property that Bill has generously allowed us access to, and with some people who are knowledgeable and some people with good photographic skills, we will take pictures of every plant that we see and we will upload them to iNaturalist. And the nice thing about iNaturalist is that you get community input from around the world on your identifications. So I had a woman commenting on some stuff that I posted recently who lived in Australia. Unfortunately, I don't agree with her identification, but she is allowed to make those comments. So we'll try and recruit volunteers from our Southeast chapter to go out and do this work each month. And we'll have to get people, we need to do some other things. We need to identify the specific borders of the land that's of interest so that we can record what's in that area. We will also go outside of that border to go all the way to the top of Red Mountain and to the end, from the end of the Intamin Trail on Pawnee, so that we can expand the list of plants that are in Manitou and available to the pollinators. My group, or the Native Plant Society, is actually not going to do the pollinator counts and identification. So we'll do plants. Let's see if there's anything else we're going to do. And once we get this sort of process down of how we do it and get some people organized to do it, should be pretty easy to go and do other areas like Black Canyon or other open space areas on a regular basis, and then come up with additional lists. So, and I guess with this, Bill Kerner is going to talk a little bit about his property. Are you there, Bill? Looks like we may have lost Bill.
Well, he still shows up.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's having problem.
Bill,
Bill,
are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Yeah, let me just rearrange the screen here. Okay.
There you are.
There we are. Yeah, well, I think this is a great effort, and I really applaud the pollinators and the Native Plant Society. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you. You know, Bill,
and
it
I-
might be better if you take your camera off.
There
and
was
we
an
can probably hear
opportunity
you better.
to really learn a lot.
If you close your video and just, we'll listen to you.
How's that? Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. Well, there was an opportunity, as I was saying, to take advantage of learning something about the north side of downward slope, which happens to be my property. And I thought that this was a great effort, and we could learn a lot about what's going on and with the plants and with the inventory, and also provide a habitat for the pollinators to come in and try to establish some ground that could be used as a pollinator source. So that was the idea behind it. It doesn't mean the property is in public domain, but with selective access to these two groups, I think it really provides us a lot of information that we probably wouldn't ever have thought of getting any other way. So I absolutely support it. It's about 35 acres. There's a map that I have that, Dylan.
It's in our packet.
It's in the packet. Okay, fine.
Yep.
You got it. So you understand what it is. And the origin of this was many years ago when there was a threat in my backyard, literally, because I'm at 205 Ruxton, that this could be turned into a housing development. And I said, nah, I don't want to do that. So I said, I worked with a fellow who defaulted on his federal taxes, and he ended up giving it to the feds, and they had an auction. I was the only bidder, so I ended up with this ground. And it has the access for the Inman Trail too. So I gave the city of Manitou Springs a easement for the Inman Trail because I was very concerned about the continuity of the Inman Trail and thought that was important to preserve. So what started as a small effort is now becoming a larger effort, and I think that's great. It's going to be great for the city. And I hope that Osac embraces doing similar things over at Black Canyon and Red Mountain and Iron Mountain and the other open spaces that we have in the inventory, the open space inventory. So that's the story.
Well, thanks so much, Bill. We appreciate it. When I saw your map and everything else in there, I just want to tell you while we've got you that we're really grateful for that easement here on this end of the Intamin. It would be very difficult to access that trail without your easement. So we're grateful for that. So I'm looking here. It looks, Melody, like you guys would like a motion allowing the pollinators and the Native Plant Society access to Black Canyon since it's not officially open yet. And then as far as Intamin and Red Mountain goes, obviously that's in the public domain. As I read this, the only concern that came up for me is, of course, we're sensitive to keeping people on the trail. And you probably aren't able to see every plant that you want to see from the trail, although you can see a lot. You've got a really good stretch of land in there. Of course, it doesn't matter yet on Black Canyon because we don't have any formal trails there at all, but certainly the Intamin, we encourage people to stay on the trail as much as possible. And I would just ask you folks to be sensitive when there are people around, other hikers and stuff around, that people aren't following you off the trail if you feel you need to go off the trail to look at plants and that kind of thing. So we keep our social trails and our road trails to a minimum going off of those trails. Otherwise, do we have any comments from the rest of the group? Shannon?
I just have a quick question. I think it's probably for Kurt. Kurt, we're always trying to figure out how to do noxious weed mitigation. And I mean, I'm a beekeeper. I'm totally behind the pollinator thing. What kind of conflicts do you see with that? And, you know, I think there's even maybe some talk, I think not as a group, but I know we're kind of researching like maybe goats and stuff. How does that affect the pollination project?
Well, I think that the big thing would be, do the goats only eat the noxious weeds or do they eat everything that's around? And if we have an inventory of what's there and kind of if we can actually scope out some of the plant communities that might exist, then if you do bring in like goats to go after something, you could actually go back afterwards and say, okay, what did we have before and what do we have now? Did we lose something? I don't see that the noxious weeds on the Intamin being, at least from the hiking that I've done over there, as being a real problem. There, you know, you've got some of the mullein, you've got the toad flax and things like that, but they're not in big patches. And I don't know whether there's any big patches of Canada thistle anywhere. And I don't know that goats eat Canada thistle, so.
Yes.
Would you guys,
Well, Oh, do you know, Shannon, that's a good question. And I would like to say that Kurt and Maggie and I talked about the possibility, because we're providing the Colorado Native Plant Society with a lot of land to come in and to really fulfill their mission and their goals, that they're willing to come in. We talked about this, that they're willing to come in with volunteers from the Manitou Pollinators, and we will actually do the weed management for you. We'll be taking them
that was
out.
going to be my next question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if along those lines also, if we do, goats are not on the table yet, but I think we've got some people looking into it, and it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
If we did bring goats or a youth corps or a volunteer group of our own, would you guys supply us with maybe a consultant that can help that group figure out what not to do and what not to trample?
That might
That's yours,
be
Kurt.
something for Maggie to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, when we're out there, it's usually a half dozen people, and usually we don't go off trail. We stay the trail, but like when we went out with Dylan, there was no trail, so we tried to stay on hardscaping. And then, yes, of course, if we identified any rare plants, we would want to inform you of where they are, but we would never take a photograph in iNaturalist of a rare plant and then geotag it. We would scramble the location of it and then try to avoid that area.
But you guys could possibly help out if we had a crew that wasn't super hip on noxious weeds. You guys could help line them out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've given trainings for room fee staff, for example, where I just, do an hour during their staff training and explain things. I've got like a slideshow I can send you. But yeah, prior to working on natives, I studied Russian olive, so I do know all the weeds.
I would like to add to, did that answer your question, Shannon? Okay, great. And I would like to come back to Nancy and all of you. When Kurt and Maggie and I were walking on Bill's property, the trail is about 45 feet wide. And that was something that Kurt and Maggie addressed right away, that it was perfect for this kind of leading small groups of people for plant IDing and the volunteers to assisting. But they put a lot of thought into keeping the groups very, very small, spread out. We wouldn't go off the trails, and that for like Black Canyon, that area would be only relegated for like Maggie and Kurt, myself, because I'm pretty sensitive, but for only the experts to go in that area where there's no trails, because we really do want to, like you said, Nancy, we want to limit the impact, and we certainly don't want to role model and just start bushwhacking and going on trails that say don't go on there. So we really want to be mindful and respectful. And they've developed a really great, I think, plan that's already in the material they provided in the packet. So we've got your back covered there. We really want to do this really sensitively. I trust Maggie and Kurt just like as much as I can. I guess I don't know what else to say. They really are the experts. Yeah. So I think you're in really good hands with them. I know I am. So I'm looking forward to this.
Great. Let me ask you this. We have, management plans for these open spaces. Is this inventory something that we could have and incorporate into our management plan?
I would hope so, and I would think so. So I'm not even quite sure what you guys are talking about as far as like your management plan for open space. And Dylan, this probably gets into conversations with planning and all of that. So that would be news to me and Maggie and Kurt and Bill. But I do know that from the Pollinator district model, that whole certification process, you really want to look at the materials I submitted for that to bring that into your management plan that you have to have from just like, Park and Rec is a part of a big system, open space is probably part of a big system. To integrate that now, that languaging, overlay it on the languaging that you currently have with open space. And when you do that, then this just automatically is a part of your larger management plan. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Yeah. So that would be my answer to that, Nancy. Absolutely.
And I will just add one thing when you're done, Lily.
And the other thing about the certification, in my understanding with the MOU, and you certainly can, ask for that from the city, but it is a 5 to 10 year plan. So it's not like something we're going to achieve in a year. So you can take time, because that's the one thing I'm learning by staying in these processes with all of you in the city. It takes time to overlay, integrate the languaging, approve it, not. And so you've got some breathing room and time to do that, but I would encourage you I would suggest doing that. So thank you. Your turn, Maggie.
Terrific. Any more questions? Tim?
Yeah. I've got quite a few questions. Some of these may go too far afield of Osac, but
We got about another 9 minutes.
okay. First of all, is the Pollinator District all of Manitou Springs? And what was agreed upon in the MOA with the city? That's one question.
So those are good questions. So the intention, so to become a certified pollinator district, it takes a community. So when I originally went looking for a pollinator supportive program to help me Manitou Springs, and with the decline, rapidly declining numbers of pollinators, I went with their program because it applies to municipalities. So the goal is for Manitou Springs as an entire municipality, as a community, with all the stakeholders and neighborhoods, faith communities, open space, park and rec. Fountain Creek Watershed is a pollinator district partner. So it's all of us that
so it's in the entire city. When you say that Manitou Springs is a pollinator district, it's not just these specific areas that you're identifying doing the inventory, it's the entirety of Manitou Springs. And
right.
if the city makes an agreement with the pollinators, whatever organization that is, to be a pollinator district, what kind of requirements does that impose on the citizens of Manitou Springs and the city of Manitou Springs as a whole? I know one of the things that you said, and I'm not sure, by the way, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
You're trying to understand. Yeah.
One of the things that was said in there was that this will add 2% cost to new home building. And it sounds like it's going to change codes as well. And this is a big deal. So I would like you to expand on that a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so the MOU that the city signed with the Butterfly Pavilion is just for city parks, open spaces, and property.
Yeah, great.
It doesn't apply to the community. Did that answer your question?
That answers one of them.
One of them, right. Well, that's one of them. So to answer that question, it's there. What I do is I reach out to other components of our town. Like I said, I reached out to the faith community. I've reached out to District 14. They're a pollinator district partner, right? We're reaching out to neighborhoods. Fountain Creek Watershed, they're a part of this community just because of our waterway. So, there's other components that I just reach out to, and you have the choice to become a part of this or not. So really, I'm not trying to force impose anything on anybody. It's really each individual's or organization's choice to partner up and become a stakeholder, to do something to improve to improve the habitat, that we can increase our numbers of pollinators in Manitou Springs.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, the MOA that the city has signed applies to all of our parks. Does it apply to all of our open space, parks and open space? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, right? Okay. So what I would suggest is to reach out to Skylar Beck, because he's the one, along with Denise Howell, that signed the MOU with the Butterfly Pavilion.
Okay, what about the issue of the green houses, a green home, and the addition of 2% costs to the building costs of the house?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how that. What are you referring to, Tim? I don't think I understand.
It was in the packet. That was in here as part of the packet.
Okay. So that would be, hold on a second here. Let me find it.
Sorry, identify the page number.
Shoot, I don't have it. I think what it's taught, what she's referring to is to how that could, oh, here we go. Alrighty. So in a study so why do we need a pollinator district? So what the Butterfly Pavilion has done in their research and their sciences, they've said that they're looking at these areas that would be of interest to us because we have our green infrastructure manual that was put together by Karen Bridgetold, right, with the planning department to help Manitou Springs incorporate and integrate more green infrastructure principles and practices within Manitou Springs. And so that's something that the Butterfly Pavilion supports. It talks about what the case that they're making is that when you go towards alternative or green building practices, it looks like there's a big cost up at the beginning, but over the long haul, there's actually a savings when you go, like when you go to solar. Okay.
Okay,
When
so
you
this
do-
really has nothing to do with Osac. It's just,
No.
It's just information that
All right.
they've, right, yeah.
you know, yeah, you might want to leave that out of some of it or identify it so that we know that,
Yeah, I think it's under the information from the Butterfly Pavilion that just
yeah.
goes on about.
Okay,
All of
Yeah,
that.
that really is. And it's really their product. And again, you know, Beth Corpenning and I went to find something in response to the 2018 bee colony collapse along the Front Range. You know, our little organization, our mission is to help become a pollinator friendly city. The beekeepers held a meeting at the Manitou Brewery. Which I believe Shannon was there. And so we went looking for some kind of model our organization did to help our city consider ways to, you know, increase pollinator habitat. So we would have more pollinators to help them not keep dwindling in their numbers, but to help them either maintain or go forward. So it's really, this is their deal. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're about out of our 30-minute time allotted for this, Melody. So I need any other critical questions. I need a motion from someone to allow the pollinators and Colorado Native Plant Society to access Black Canyon open space for the purposes of inventorying plants.
I would like to amend that.
Amend the motion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Judy, let's hear it.
I don't know if that's appropriate to the motion, but I think it is. I think we were talking about maintaining communications. And I think it would be important if we're going to do this, that we know in advance when these evaluations are going to take place. And I think that would be really helpful. Maybe some of us would like to go and just be there. And I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing, to get more familiar with what the process is, maybe help, maybe bring a photographer. I don't know, but I think we should have some idea, not hear about it later, that there were a bunch of people on the trail or whatever in Black Canyon. I think that's important.
Sure. I will tell you, Judy, that we have the Pollinator Project on our agenda quite frequently. They've been pretty good at letting us know exactly what they're up to. But it would be good, I think. I really like your point about, you know, wanting to know when they're out there and what you can do to help. So I'm not sure we need that in a motion. I think that's just Melody's done a really good job of keeping us informed of what's going on. But if you want to give me wording on a motion, the big thing they've asked for is access to Black Canyon. So.
Well, I would just add to your motion that.
Okay.
Notice given.
I need you to give me the language.
Prior notice shall be given when the pollinators are going to be evaluating plants and photographing them, and where and when.
Okay, let me ask, does that work, Melody, Maggie, Kurt? Are you able to inform someone every time you're gonna go out, or when you, I mean, you've
It
said
can
you're,
be just an email. I mean, that's all it has to be.
Yes, of course. We keep a calendar and we would definitely be informing you of any time we were on that landscape.
okay, great. Okay, Judy, do you want to put that all in the form of a motion? And please include the access to Black Canyon.
I make a motion that the Osac acknowledge and endorse the pollinators application to explore Black Canyon in terms of evaluating sustainability of pollinators in the area. And that notice will be given to Osac prior to those excursions. How's that?
Andrea, unmute yourself. We've got it. We
Yeah,
have
can
to have-
you just slow down and repeat it so I can
Oh, you're
actually type
kidding.
it out?
How about this, Judy?
Mhm.
How about this? The motion reads, Osac, I move that Osac allow the pollinators and Colorado Native Plant Society access to Black Canyon open space for the purposes of conducting plant inventories and,
Hold on.
okay,
Colorado Native Plant Society, right?
correct. The pollinators and Colorado Native Plant Society.
Okay. So say again.
For the purpose. Black Canyon for the purpose.
For the purpose to continue work to document the flora.
Mhm.
To continue, okay. Okay, to allow the pollinator group and the Colorado Native Plant Society access to the Black Canyon site to continue work to document flora. That's what I have right now.
And
And
that they inform
with,
Osac.
like, are you asking that they say, hey, do we have permission? And then they have to wait till we have another
No,
meeting
no, the
to give
endorsement's
permission?
already met. If the committee votes to approve it, then the endorsement is met. The qualifier is that we have notice. It's not, you have to
So they
ask.
would, okay, so they would just let, you know,
And that
Dylan or
notice be
whoever know.
given.
Yeah, send an email.
And
Okay.
that notice be
Whatever.
given when the pollinators and the Colorado Native Plant Society are doing inventories on open space.
That covers it for.
Doing-
Yeah.
But I'd like to add something for consideration. I think you might want to add in also that part of your intention motivation is for open space to, this is a part of your, as a stakeholder now, as we become a pollinator district, that this is a part of this again is why the presentation is, it's the required steps for you to be doing as the land managers, as one of the land managers for the city. So really you have to be documenting these steps that you're taking with Skylar, which he takes back to Amy Yarger, right? So it comes full circle. So I think you might want to put some kind of languaging in that to protect yourself and take care of yourself. I know I'm required to do it. Maggie Gaddis will be required to do it. So it's just so that we're demonstrating to the Butterfly Pavilion that we are accountable. And we've actually been going through the steps I discussed earlier, the areas of evaluation that we have done this. Like Amy came down in 2019 with Dylan and I and Tim. We did that site assessment. We got that one done, high rating. So now the next steps, the logical steps for us is to look at what we have out there. And that part needs, I think would be necessary in your statement.
I'm not sure I follow you, Melanie.
Oh, okay, so when you're talking, when the motion is going forward, I think you really want to say that the reason why you're doing this is that that you're doing this to document the steps taken to become a pollinator district. Does that make sense?
Well, Osac is not becoming the pollinator district. We're a stakeholder, but
Right.
I'll be frank with you. We have a lot of irons in the fire. And this is not something, we want to support you, and we certainly want to give you access, and we want to do whatever we can to help pollinators. But this is not our ballywhack.
Got it. I'm not here to make it difficult for you. I thought Skylar was going to be here so that he could have answered questions about them.
Right.
That this would have gone a little bit easier for everybody. So I do, I understand what you're saying.
Sure, sure. Well, my note from Dylan just says that we need a formal motion to allow the Pollinators and Native Plant Society to access the Black Canyon open space. And then we had Judy's addition of and keep Osac informed when you'll be doing, I don't know what you want to call it, projects, surveys, whatever, on Manitou open space. Is that clear to everybody? Does that work for you, Judy?
Mhm.
Okay. Andrea, can you read us a motion?
Maybe.
This is where we really have to get legal.
Okay. Move to allow the Pollinator Group and Colorado Native Plant Society for the purposes of, you move to allow the Pollinator Group and Colorado Native Plant Society
Access to.
Access to the Black Canyon site to continue work to document flora with prior notice given to the Osac for surveys in Manitou open spaces.
Any changes or adjustments to the motion? Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
No, Judy, you made the motion.
Oh, sorry. Well, I like it.
Okay, Cheryl, a second from Cheryl. Okay, any other discussion? Thank you very much, Bill, Melody, Maggie, Kurt, for your presentation. Okay, Dylan,
You still
something?
need a, yeah, you
I
still
know,
need
we're
a
gonna
vote.
So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising
Aye.
your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, you guys. Go forth
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
and let us know what you find.
We will. It'll be
Okay,
fun. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Okay. Next on the agenda. It's the prerogative of the chair to form subcommittees. And I'd like to form some subcommittees. Some will be permanent, some may be ad hoc committees that don't have to stay in existence all the time. But several of you have suggested a land acquisition subcommittee, and Shannon has agreed to chair that committee. And what I'd like to know tonight is, and as you can see, I've put, let me explain a little bit about each of the committees. So land acquisition is pretty straightforward. Trail maintenance committee, Andrea has chaired that committee in the past. We have a spreadsheet.
Trails Committee, not trail maintenance.
Oh, okay, just trails and maintenance. Trails and maintenance committee. Andrea's chaired that in the past. We have a spreadsheet of projects, all that kind of thing. It's an important committee. The Standard Operating Procedures Committee is just going to be an ad hoc committee. We'll work long enough to get our standard operating procedures in place, and then we will disband. And then the Open Space Management Plan Committee, this is something that Shannon's been working on. It was interesting in reading Bill Corner's easement today, that agreement, or part of that agreement, the agreement with Osac, between Osac and the city of Manitou Springs, says that the management plan on that space will be updated every 5 years. Shannon, you've probably done more, and this involves, once again, Palmer Land Trust, what they now say that takes every 5 years. But I think we need a committee that gets a handle on management plans. We said one of the things we'll do in the coming year is formulate a management plan for those small open spaces. And Dylan just sent out a memo, it was in your packet, with with maps and also explaining that some of those management plans, some of those open spaces, small open spaces now, it looks like are being reclassified. Is that right, Dylan?
Yeah, I'll talk about it more once the agenda item comes up, but we basically went back through the dawn to the dawn of the zoning code. Went through all of the ordinances, all of the rezoning ordinances and tracked those. And it looks like there were some errors that were made in the past about a couple of the open spaces, a couple of public facilities, things like that. So there's at least 2 open spaces that we thought were open spaces that were never rezoned to open space.
Okay.
And I'll point those out when that agenda item comes up, and the next steps as far as that.
Okay. So what I'd like to see happen is for everyone on Osac to serve on at least 1, if not 2 subcommittees. I'm willing to chair the SOP, the ad hoc committee on doing our standard operating procedures. So speak now. Tim, you're muted. You're muted.
It's probably,
Open
probably
There you
for the
go.
best. But, yeah, I'll volunteer for that one and the land
Which
acquisition.
one?
For the standard operating procedure and the land acquisition. I don't know that you want me on the standard operating procedure since I have no idea what
Oh, I can
they
use you.
are. But if you can use and abuse me, I'll be there. Yeah.
Okay, and the acquisition committee, did you say?
Yeah.
Great. Way to step up. I'm just gonna go around the room. Andrea, I'm gonna go to you next since you're already involved. Do you want to continue to chair trails and trail management?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help set meetings and, agendas, that kind of thing. My concern is just that I am very busy.
Right.
So that's kind of my balance. But I would like to do that. And I think just as, talk about like what we talked about, working with city staff to try and help develop a management plan, a trails management plan for future stuff. And then, obviously like work on other stuff outlined in the master plan. So just, and what I mean by that is looking at, things that have been called out for Osac to work on related to trails.
Right.
Whatever that may be. So I also would, can you just, so you said the open space management plan committee, can you just, so you want to like, can you talk about that more again?
Sure. So we've kind of gone around. We were under the understanding that every open space, and we're talking about our big ones, Red Mountain, help me, Iron Mountain and Black Canyon, for example, need a formal management plan. And we have been doing them, revising them every 5 years. And we were in the process of doing that when Shannon had a conversation with Palmer. And Shannon, do you want to take it from there?
Sure. Palmer just basically said we don't have to go that far in depth as rewriting the whole plan, that we can come up with a letter that says we don't need to unless we need to.
So we have initial management plans on all those open spaces that are quite detailed, but they can be added to or renewed. It sounds we were paying several $1,000s every time those plans had to be renewed. Go ahead, Shannon.
Aren't we the open space management plan? Isn't that more tailored? Or aren't we more worried right now about getting those the little parcels?
Yes.
Kind of taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm curious too. We probably need to get Skylar in on this, right? Because he's now going to be part of open space.
Right. Seth is our liaison.
Oh, okay. Seth, what do you have thoughts on that?
But we do, that's a priority for us, is figuring out where all of our small open spaces are and what's our plan for dealing with them. So that's probably the main.
I would be super happy to be part of that committee. I don't know that we need a chair. I think we need staff. And I think I kind of remember briefly talking to Skylar. I think we had a long conversation at the budget meeting, and I think we brought that up a little bit. Sounds like they're going to have another person signed up under him. So they'll have 3 people total in that department. I'd like
Right.
to talk to them and see if they can kind of help us, and maybe he's got something, a template from places he's been before to kind of shoehorn all those little guys into one space. I still think we all need to look at them and put our eyes on them, and maybe we figure out how to do that with the management plan committee.
And didn't you say that you had access now to the platform, to the app that shows you boundaries and that kind of thing?
No, I've always had access to that, and I'm getting a just real quick blurb, and I think I can bring it up now. I've talked to the Onyx company, and I believe they're waiting for their season to slow down, that they're going to give everybody on the board this app for free because
Great.
they like our mission and all that. So I think that's happening, but it's not going to happen probably till January.
Okay.
So yeah, I have it personally, but I've been paying for it for years.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, I think to talk to Andrea's question, I think there's a lot more to it than just these big, huge parcels. And I think we need to figure out how to get staff. Because right now we're blind. I mean, how do we write a management plan for a 400 square foot open space lot?
Right. You don't.
Well, and
But we
also
have to.
given, you know, what the
Right.
zoning research that was done too, that inventory is going to have to be redone at this point, remapped, and it's also going to take a little research on the ones that we thought had been rezoned open space but weren't, and determine what those were purchased for. If they were purchased for open space, then we can get them rezoned to what they should be. But yeah, it's another bump in the road there.
So Shannon or Dylan, are you suggesting that probably we can't move ahead on that until that's done?
Yeah, at least until I do what I just said, basically, which is remap them, re-inventory, and do a little research on the ones that we thought were open space but aren't.
Great. Okay. So
So just, I would be happy to at least just make a list of, all the management plans, that kind of thing, and just like, work to, if somebody else wanted to help me too, just like say, this one needs to be looked at every 5 years. This one needs to be looked at every 2 years, and, just kind of an update of like where we're at with those things. So at least we have like a, spreadsheet
Exactly.
with those listed on it. So I'd be happy to do that if we want to call it like a committee, I don't know
okay.
what
So
would
yeah,
be
so
most
that we
helpful.
get them on a rotation, a
Mhm.
regular rotation. So Andrea, I've got you on trails and open space management plan. Tim, I've got you on standard operating procedure and acquisition. Shannon, I've got you on acquisition and open space management. Cheryl. I think you're muted. You're muted. What's your preference?
I'll join the trail maintenance and standard operating procedures. I'll help with that.
Great. Okay, Judy.
I'd like to be on land acquisition. And I don't think right now I can handle anymore until I get my feet on the ground here.
Okay, that'll be a good way to get your feet on the ground.
Okay.
Jeff.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help Shannon with the open space management plan. That interests me.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Nancy,
TJ.
Robin had said she wanted to be on land acquisitions. I remember that if you're writing things down.
Okay, good, I am.
And I think
What about TJ?
I asked TJ to send me and I haven't heard from him, so I will contact him. Tim,
I've kind of been working a little bit on that open space, odd lot stuff anyway with Shannon. I have a little bit more to say about that when we get to that item on the.
okay, do you want to be on that committee?
Sure, as long as it's not operational right now. No, that's fine.
You know, there is something to consider as I look at these. So for standard operating procedures and trails and management, right now, we just have 2 members plus a staff member if you want one on trails management, for example, if you want Seth on that. And in that case, you don't have to publish the meeting if there are just 2 people on the meeting. For open space management and for acquisitions, those committees are bigger, so you're going to have to post those meetings. And Dylan can do that, or Seth will do that eventually. So I think we've got everyone except Robin and TJ. And I put Robin on acquisitions, and I will talk to TJ. Notes have to be kept in these meetings, or at least any recommendations you're coming forward with, that kind of thing. And when we finish standard operating procedures, you'll have even more succinct rules, whatever they are. But those are the 2 that I know that I've seen on other standard operating procedures, is that if more than 2 people are meeting, you need to post it and somebody needs to take notes. And you're going to be only make recommendations to Osac as a whole. No final decisions can be made in committee. Does that make sense? Any other thoughts, comments? Thank you very much. Okay,
Nancy?
Tim.
Yeah, how do we get going on this? Do we just wait for the chair to notify us to? Or do we make a plan?
So Andrea's gonna call meetings of trails. I'll call them of SOP. Shannon's gonna call them of acquisition.
Okay.
And the only one left that we need kind of a chair for is open space management plans. And that's Shannon, Andrea, Jeff, Tim.
Oh, I didn't have Tim down, but if you want, you guys, I will call a meeting for that one. I mean, and I'll just make a list of the management plans and maybe have one meeting.
Andrea, you just told us how busy you are, and now you're kind of doing that for 2 committees.
Well, I'm kind of thinking of that second one as a temporary committee meeting, but
Well,
we can talk about it too. We can just have a meeting and then talk
You'll
about
call a
plan to go
meeting and
forward.
maybe you'll appoint
And
some.
maybe I won't be on that one. Yeah.
And the open space management plan, it doesn't sound like we really have anything pressing for a while. And I can
That's
tell you
right.
there's only like 3 properties that have the 5-year thing. Well, Black
And
Canyon hasn't started yet. So it's really Iron Mountain, Red Mountain. So,
Black Canyon.
And
yeah,
then
but
small
we haven't
parcels.
started the
Yeah.
5-year because we don't have a management plan yet, right?
Right. Dylan.
And all I ask is code requires at least a minimum of 24-hour notice that it has to be posted. So let me know at least 25 hours before.
Okay.
Hey,
So
real quick, Dylan, I'll get with you like after Thanksgiving, but for the land acquisition committee, do you think it'd be all right if I got from you like one of those big maps that I could have like to make notes, the real big ones that show everything and who owns what, or a parcel map? I don't know what to call it, but Mike used to have one.
Yeah, I can certainly make something.
Okay, I'll come in and talk to you or call you after Thanksgiving. So,
all right.
Thanks.
okay. And I'll call a meeting with myself and Tim, and we don't have to tell anybody, Tim.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right.
Are we gonna hit that odd lot question under old business? Or are we already there?
No, we're still, we just finished number 14 under new,
Yeah, okay, all right, fine.
under new business. Or 14. My thing won't scroll. I don't,
We're on number 9.
yeah, okay. There we go. Okay, budget presentation to city council. Shannon, thank you very much. So the slides that Shannon used are in your packet. Shannon, how did it go?
It went great. The only question we had was they asked exactly like we thought they would, what the big grant match was for. And I told them, and that was it. They liked it and it was short and sweet. Not a lot of questions. We just kept moving on. You guys have any questions?
I'll just say that Denise grabbed me and said you did a great job.
It
So
was very
thanks a lot
short
for
to the point.
doing
She
that.
probably loved that.
And Tim, thanks for showing up too.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
Sure.
Okay. Next, we often in the past, long before the open, long we were probably breaking the sunshine law, but we used to have an Osac Christmas party. I'd actually have one, but my house is too small. But are we going to cancel? We traditionally have canceled the December meeting. Right now it's scheduled for December 27th. Any thoughts on that? I'm inclined to cancel the meeting and our next meeting would be January, but I'm willing to entertain any other ideas.
I'm for canceling.
Andrea is too. Any other
Yeah,
thoughts?
and I think like if we have, from now till end of January to do a subcommittee meeting, maybe we could do that,
That's right. Yeah,
without
it'd be nice if
as
we got
much.
the first committee meetings done so that we actually had have a report from every subcommittee at our meeting at the end of January. Okay, great. Good idea, Andrea. Thanks. Okay. On to old business.
No, I had the new number 11 under new business, Rimpy.
I'm sorry, my computer. Oh, that's right. Sorry. Thank you. It's not that written down there.
Oh,
Okay.
10.1 since it was already 11.
Okay,
That's 11 under new business.
go Shannon. You're going to tell us about your
Yeah,
conversation.
so real quick, I talked to, how we've been discussing for several years now, having another resource as far as trail maintenance, trail projects, people we can call on, people that can build trail, people that can be basically do what we ask them to do and we write a check to them. So I ran into Jennifer Peterson at an event for trails and trout. And we started talking and we ended up talking on the phone for quite a while. And Jennifer, and I told her I wanted to get you guys' okay before I pursued this further. The gist of it is, and you guys know I'm kind of casual, so it was, I didn't take a lot of notes, but the idea is, because I asked her, how can we get involved with you guys more? Because we got lucky last year, the way it sounds, to get them.
Does everybody know who Renfee is? Let me just clarify that.
Rocky Mountain Field Institute. When I asked, Jennifer said, is there anything pending? And I said, we might have something on the Iron Mountain Trail if we don't get a grant through Mile High Youth Corps. We budgeted $9,000 a week for the stairs, and we said 3 weeks. So I said that might be something we'd like to call you guys on, but we don't know if we'll need you until we hear from the Youth Corps grant. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I've also talked with those guys a bunch, like when we did a lot of our walkthroughs. And
Right.
Jennifer and Carl, they're amped to, build a partnership with us. I'm sure they would love the recurring, business. But also if we could get them to help, like if they're going to put together a grant, for whatever work, if it could happen on our property, that would be great. But also, yeah, and we talked about also doing the switchbacks, like redoing the switchbacks on Red Mountain.
So what I was getting at is, so they don't, she wanted to know, she was talking to me and she goes, we don't usually just say, hey, we'll go, like, because we got them pretty short notice last year in the grand scheme of things. She said they're going right now and planning their whole year for next year. And we got lucky getting them when we did.
Well, I started last year about this time for sure. I'd been reaching out for a long time.
So,
okay, so what she does with Colorado Springs is they have a contract, 5-year contracts at a time. It could be any contract, any amount of time. What they do with Colorado Springs, just for instance, they have a $100,000 contract a year, and they're guaranteed 80 days a year for Colorado Springs. And I asked her, this was a really cool conversation. I said, Jennifer, is there any way that we could get someone from Renfee to come look at all of our property and all of us sit down and say, what do we need from you? You basically have them on somewhat of a retainer. It might be $5,000 a year and we get 3 days a year. We don't know until they come look. So I wanted to talk to you guys and see if you'd like me to pursue having them come out for free. They'll look at everything, everything, and give us suggestions like, hey, you know what? You guys could use 5 guaranteed days of accrue every year, and it's this amount of money. They like to operate under contracts so they can go to their board and say, this is what's happening next year and for the next 5 years. When we have them for those, I'm saying 5 days. I'm pulling that out of my rear end. There's no 5 day. No one's talked about 5 days. But if we said 5 days, then we know that we have a trail crew for 5 days. They do noxious weeds, they do erosion control, they do trail building, they do all of it. And they bring in a huge portion of volunteer aspect of it. So Jennifer said that if you guys gave me the go ahead to pursue something with them, we would talk and then bring out their crews starting January, February, March to kind of inventory, do walkthroughs and tell us what they think we need. And then we figure out a contract to move forward based on what we want to do. So in my mind, I thought this was a no-brainer because it gives us some guaranteed people that do what we ask them to do. You're guaranteed noxious weeds, whatever we need, we're guaranteed to have it. We have money and we're getting ready to pay off Iron Mountain, so we'll have more money.
I think it's really awesome and I think it's great. I've been working on this also. And so I'd like to really kind of keep that in the trails kind of house, which means not just me, but starting to talk with Seth about having the city kind of help organize that as well, city staff, if that's something that, those positions would deem appropriate. So that it's not like you or me that's having to do all of the trail maintenance, logging and organizing with Renfee, but basically city staff, we could recommend, that city staff pursue that contract or with Renfee. So.
Anyone else? I can say that I certainly don't mind having them come out and do the walkthrough, and I like the idea of them getting us on their schedule for whatever we decide, a week in the coming year or whatever it is. I will say, and I saw Jeff kind of shaking his head, he's not real familiar with Renfee, but Renfee, Rocky Mountain Field Institute, Jeff, does all the things that Shannon talked about. They're a nonprofit organization that's worked around here for years on designing and building trail. They have a lot of technical expertise around trails and trail maintenance, that kind of thing. They've been responsible for maintaining the lower 3 miles of bar trail for the last several years. We worked with them for 1 week this year on West Intamin. They did some major drain structures and that kind of thing. So that's who they are. They mainly organize groups of volunteers along with a couple of experts to get work done. And I'm assuming that's what they're talking about when they work for us. We actually had 5 of their people on our project this year. It wasn't a volunteer project, or I don't know, Andrea, did they have any volunteers? One volunteer on that project? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Yes, one of the 5 work days they did had 1 volunteer.
Okay. So, and Seth, you haven't said a word, but I can certainly see it's appropriate to get city staff involved in that. The other thing is I think, or I know that Skylar sent out, I mean, one of the things we asked for was to look at an overall trail management plan, and he sent out samples of management plans from several other municipalities or districts that I would turn over to the Trails Committee to take a look at and see if any of those types of plans or models for plans or something that is appealing to that committee. Yeah, to move forward with. The only other thing I'd say, Shannon, is that I think we have a pretty good idea of what we need in a lot of cases. I mean, we know that we have 2 very big switchbacks up on Red Mountain that when they fail are going to take a major amount of tread and really take some technical expertise to figure out how to solve replacing those switchbacks. So that's one place I'd like to use RIMFI. The other place I'd like to think about them is in the design of trail layouts in Black Canyon and what we're going to do there. So I will just throw those out. I think the Intamin Trail's in better shape than it's ever been in. Those are 2 spots where I think we're going to need plenty of technical expertise. So how do you want to move forward?
Another opportunity to, sorry.
I'm curious, do I need, Dylan, do I need a motion that says I can coordinate with them and city staff? I agree that I should get Seth and Skylar in on this.
Well, the issue with doing a motion or taking any action right now is that it wasn't actually posted on the agenda for the public to be aware of.
Yeah.
So Shannon, I feel like I've been working on it a lot, and I feel like you jumping in, just kind of swooping in with that same project, it just makes me a little, upset. But I am excited and hopeful for the opportunity to work with RIMFI, and I just hope that we could basically arrange it so that there's a process like the trail management plan that we come up with would involve working with them. And then hopefully staff could, instead of you being the negotiator of saying, hey, RIMFI, could you please do these 5 projects? It becomes more of a, a city
Andrea, I'm not
effort.
trying to step on your toes. And I personally, I honestly don't care who comes up with this idea. But if we've been working with RIMFI for 2 years and we just found out that they like to have a 5-year contract and we can have them on kind of a retainer, that's a good thing.
It's been saying that for a couple of years.
I'm totally cool.
No, I don't care if my name's on it. I just don't think that you should be the one negotiating with RIMFI. I think that the city staff should be the ones that are working with them and hiring them.
Well, we're going to make any of those decisions as a group.
I'm not negotiating. We were talking and Jennifer said, this is how it goes. Would you be interested in figuring it out together? And I came to you guys to ask if we were interested in figuring it out together. I clearly stepped on toes.
No, well, I'm sensitive, but I think also developing the management plan could be something that RIMFI could also really help with us. Now they won't do it for free, but that could be something that could be really beneficial. So like kind of like creating here's all the things that we see that we see wrong with your trails or whatever
they could do.
Yeah.
I also want to keep in mind that we do have some staff now. And Seth, we want to make sure you have enough to do. So moving forward, let's, you know, there's a potential way to backdoor this would be to, and we're not going to do it tonight, but we could contract with Rimfee for a week, for example, of their services in the coming year. And then we know that we've allocated the funds. We don't know on what project we want them to work yet until we do a walkthrough with them and we have a plan in place. So knowing that they're running almost 10K a week, was a little over $9,000 this year. The board you could start to consider how many weeks you'd like to work with them in the coming year. That would be one way to look at it. And then city can contract with them for those weeks for Osac. Yeah, Shannon.
Could we hear from the rest of the board how they feel about this Rimfee thing?
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear. Judy, you're going to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, all of a sudden, I think it's like flipped. So wasn't the idea to have them come in because they said they'd do that assessment and then we'd have that. Isn't that the only way you'll know how many days you want to contract for? Because otherwise, are you just saying, well, we'll take 5 and hope we can fill them and it's worth it and we'll find value. I don't know if it's frontwards or backwards.
Well, and the other thing, as somebody talked about, we don't know because we don't know if we have 3 weeks of Mile High Youth Corps too. But even if we had that, I know when we had Rimfee out, when Andrea and I walked through with them before, one of the things we talked about is using Rimfee to supervise Mile High on the rebuilding of those switchbacks. Mile High can do the muscle and they can do the technical design piece and supervision.
I think that all of that would be a great conversation to have with Rimfee, including, you know, like a 5-year plan, like all that kind of thing. And I've been talking, you know, not as much with Jennifer, but more with Carl, just about the fact that they are interested in doing that. They very much like to do, you know, have their work, you know, figured out ahead of time. And so, and that makes sense. And they're not going to do work for free, you know, like they're not just going to come out and do a trail assessment for free. And, you know, but actually I could be wrong, you know, like maybe they would, like given like, you know, 5-year contract worth of work or something. But I think it would be really good to sit down with, you know, them, us, city staff, and figure out kind of that path forward to using them and or not.
Okay, how about if I set up a meeting with Rimfee? Anybody who wants to come can come. We want to make sure that Seth and maybe Skylar are both there. And we set it up as I'll find out if we need, what we need to pay them for a walkthrough. If we need to pay them for a walkthrough. And we'll do that. Now, we can't walk all of our trails in one meeting, but we can certainly have in mind a couple of the problem areas that we know we want them to look at. Other thoughts?
Well, I don't know this group, but it occurred to me when you said that, maybe it may not be either the same people, but at that level able to do these assessments. And they could be on the same day or different days with different groups going off to different areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure how often we're going to get them out here, Judy.
Well, as I'm saying, one time.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have everybody going together necessarily. If they have, I don't know, 2 names, Carl and Jennifer, if those people are on the same level of expertise and they do these assessments, they could go, A could go to this place and B to go to that place. It doesn't necessarily have to be, doesn't have to necessarily be multiple days either.
Sure, we'll see
Depending on how they want to do it.
And it's a good opportunity to orient Skylar and Seth to some of our trail issues at the same time. Yeah. Okay. So how does that sound? Tim?
Nancy, I just wanted to respond to the whole idea. And I think that's a great idea to get somebody else involved here with trail building. is beholding to us and us alone for doing that. So thanks to Shannon and Andrea for setting that up,
Okay,
getting that going.
I'll see what I can, I'm sure Rimfi would like to do as soon as possible so that they know that they have something on their schedule this summer. Yep, Dallin,
And just let me know, it'll have to be posted 24 hours in advance.
right. Okay. I will, yep, I'll see what we can set up. I'm not gonna do a doodle poll of everyone. I'll just do best I can of how many of you would want to be part of that walkthrough with Rimpi? Judy, Jeff,
Yeah, I think so.
just about everybody. Okay, so we'll just put a couple dates. I guess maybe I will do a doodle poll once I get some perspective dates from Rimfi, and then let you all know if you're available. Sound good?
Mhm.
Thanks for bringing that, Shannon.
Thanks, Andrea.
Okay. Old business, trail projects, GoCo Mile High update. So Andrea and I, and also Corey, spent some time with the last 2 weeks with Mile High. I just urge you to get out there and see some of the work. They spent 3 days over behind the middle school and up going on the lower Intamin there. They replaced part of a retaining wall, did a beautiful job, installed a couple of steps in kind of a steep area, did corridor clearing and some of that kind of stuff. And then the second 5 days, total of 5 days, they spent on the East Intamin and installed some major drainage structures, several. I was up there day before yesterday and looked at all the work. I thought it looked great. We had Carol Workman come in one day to supervise the crew. And that was a really good thing because she said she spent a lot of time saying deeper, wider, because the drainage structures weren't going to be as robust as we needed them to be. But I urge you to walk the Intamin. I would say that the Intamin, this end of the Intamin from Spring Street over to Pawnee is probably in better shape than it's ever been. And if we get some serious water, it'll be interesting to see how these structures hold up. And I think they're going to hold up pretty well. Andrea, how about you? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I thought both projects were great. I haven't seen the work that's over on East Intamin, but pretty pleased with the work they did. I will say it was hard to communicate with the crews. And so that's kind of something that we need to beef up in the future if we're going to maintain this role of somehow coordinating, identifying, designing, and communicating how the work gets done, because the crews are different crews day by day. So it makes it really hard to have just, someone there for one day. It's like you need to have like repeated, or someone that's there many days to communicate the messages. Anyway, the other one thing I want to say is that one of the priority things was to close the trail, that massive social trail that's behind the Intamin sign. That's just off of Spring Street, or just off of Ruxton heading up Spring Street. And so they put some big trees that they sawed up old trees and put them in there, and looked pretty burly. And so all of that stuff is already removed out of that trail. So, people have moved it to continue using it. So we need another solution, I think, if we want to close that. So maybe that's putting some fence railing in there. I don't know, whatever you guys kind of think would be most appropriate. But also I got some stickers to put on the sign that say trail this way, trail that way. So it's not, just the default assumption that the trail is that one that's behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Shannon, do you still have one sign that you got from Colorado Springs that says trail closed for rehab or whatever it is?
Reclamation or- Yep, I do. I
Revegetation.
can get more.
Okay, I think we need a sign that we put right in the middle of the bottom of that trail, or maybe one at the top. Actually, when I was hiking up there the other day, somebody said, well, maybe you should just put some yellow tape across it. I don't know. It's ugly and I don't know if it would work, but I don't know if people are removed what was there because they were pissed off, or moved what was there because they thought that was their access to the trail.
They just
But-
don't know. They
Are
don't
you,
know.
are you talking about the really steep trail right
Yes.
behind the sign?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I live there and it's funny, everybody that's there, you walk up and the sign, you put a sign at a trailhead, right? It just, you go there and you immediately think, there's kind of that trail there. It just is very misleading.
Yeah. So I think we need to fix that. I think the arrows will help. And I think we need to put a closed sign with those arrows that direct people around the corner.
Do you
And
want me
up
to
the
give
road.
that sign to the city?
Pardon?
You want me to give that sign to Seth?
That'd be great.
Before you do something like that, maybe we should think about it, right? Because the problem seems to be the sign that's there, somebody thought was a good idea and it's confusing. Now you're gonna put a closed sign on the trail. Like, again, think about people that aren't in this meeting. You might walk up to that and be like, oh, the Intamin Trail is closed. I mean, just before we start making signs, right? We should think it through from maybe a perspective that's not ours, right? We know the problem, whereas somebody else coming in, I can just see it right now. Here's the big sign that says Intamin, and then right on it is a sign that says closed.
What would you do, Jeff? Could we put the sign more on that rogue trail? I'm not real familiar with that area.
There's like no signage. Like if you don't know where the trail is, you don't know. So again, normally I think people, when you see a sign or a trail, you think that's the trailhead. So I think we should think about it before we get a sign made and talk about it, I guess. And I don't know the solution because we just started talking about it, but maybe some kind of small map that shows the trail goes left and then around from this point. But
So I have,
think we should think about it.
We had some stickers made that like decal stickers to put on that big sign to say, like the point in the direction, like to imply like go on Spring Street and then turn. But it's true, there used to be some old signs that would direct, it says trail, but they all disappear over time. So we could put up some more like little directive signs that direct people around Spring Street. So we'll start with that. We'll put those stickers up soon. They should be done soon. And then.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Jeff.
Yeah, the sign says, what does it say? It says like closed for revegetation. So it just needs to be clear. Yeah, and so maybe it's something where we change the map too, that's on there. That could be something that could show more clearly like what,
yeah, the map does,
maybe
has the right alignment on it, but I think when we, just a little background, we put the sign there because we thought it would help close that social trail, but it may have had the opposite effect. So yeah.
I tell you what, I'll get that sign to the city staff no matter what. I'm kind of tired of tripping over it anyway.
Okay. And Seth, are you there? Earth to Seth, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes,
we can.
Okay, I've been having trouble with this all night. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, maybe we can get together with you and Sky and go over and look at the place and get your ideas of how to fix this. Because the trail behind the sign is unsustainable. We want to close it. We want to direct people onto the road and around the corner up onto the trailhead. And maybe we just need more directional signs or something to get them there. Maybe you guys have some ideas.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Jeff said. It's kind of a confusing location that has some challenges and stuff, but yeah, if we met somewhere, we could figure something out, I'm sure.
Okay, I'll contact you. And maybe we can go take a look.
Just
Jeff, you're muted.
sorry. So I was just thinking for a couple minutes, like maybe, and I agree, I think stickers are kind of bad because they wear off and people rub them off and it's fun to confuse people, you know, for some people. Maybe some kind of like big arrow pointing left, you know, and then I think there's other spots, at least there used to be on the internet, but there's those little wooden poles and then like kind of an arrow that got put on and those kind of rubbed off too. But, you know, maybe then another arrow you can even see from there that points right. Might be good. Like,
Yeah.
you, oh, hey, there's an arrow left, and you look left and you see another marker that kind of has another arrow pointing, you know, up that road.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Creek Walk, I have nothing to report. I just will tell you that I know that they, when they get this most recent alignment set up, I've asked them to come and present to Osac. And I have no idea when that will be. Dylan, have you heard anything?
Nope, I hadn't even heard what you just mentioned, so it's all news to me. Would it be Jacobs that would be
Yes,
presenting?
Jacobs would be presenting.
Okay.
Yep. Okey doke. Memorial bench policy. Thank you, Dylan, for putting the application in the packet that Parab is using for their memorial bench policy. I will go ahead and revamp that application to work for us and bring it to the committee for our meeting next time. Anybody have any comments on the memorial bench policy that was in your packet? Shannon?
So what is the timeline? When do we think this might be like ready to go?
I think it could be ready to go if we approve the application next meeting. That's it. It's
Can we
done.
approve it now? Is there a way we can do that?
I could probably work on the application, but I would
Hey, can I
want,
give Jeff and Judy a little background on this? You guys keep seeing it on the agenda. Mary Kelly Moreland came to the city to put up a memorial bench on an open space parcel for her late husband, Mark Moreland, who used to be a city councilman long time ago. And we've been dealing with this, and you know, she had her daughter in town and they wanted to do it together. And the reason I'm pushing to do it quicker is because they've been going like probably a year now, huh, Dylan?
I think it's been exactly a year.
Yeah. So this summer they were really hoping to do a thing. They had family in town and they got kind of hung up with the bureaucracy, which she totally understands. Her husband was city council forever, the mayor forever, and he was a genuinely good guy. And I would like to see this go quicker than it has. So.
okay, I have two
That's the
questions
background.
for you. I have two questions for you tonight on the policy, and I hope you all can bring it up. The first is under general policy guidelines number 6. Last sentence, dedication plaque should be limited not more than 5 by 7 inches is what I have written there. Now, the para policy says not more than 24 square inches. Do you have any preferences about limiting the size of the plaque on the memorial bench or rock? Do you want to say 24 square inches and just keep it like Parab's plaques, and then the plaque could be 2 by 12 or
5 by 7 is what, 35 inches?
yeah.
And if they're building a bench, I think Parab's is a little bit smaller because it's in a park. You know, I'm thinking we're a little bit grander. If you're putting something on a side of a mountain, I think we can give them 5 by 7. But it's not a hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah. Is everybody good with that? Okay, I'll leave 5 by 7 in there. And then the next question is under number 12. It says all memorials will be installed by a qualified contractor selected by Osac. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it sounds like another committee.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
doesn't the city already do this for plaques and yada yadas that are around the city anyway? Couldn't they, Parks or somebody recommend, or is there maybe a list of contractors the city already has that they could just hand out with
Good
this?
question, Judy. When I was researching this, it wasn't, yes, most cities install them themselves. And most cities charge a chunk of change for doing that to whoever is putting in the memorial bench. So I guess I need to find out from Parks how they want to treat that.
I have a question. Is this like an existing bench, right? They're not inventing a bench. They have to pick the bench that we have, right? So it's a uniform bench and it just needs to be installed. Is that right?
This is not a bench that we've designed or a bench that we've purchased or even a design that we've agreed on. But whatever is designed has to be approved by us. So there are setting stones, there are, we have a flagstone bench up there right now that's been there for eons and actually is broken. So it could be their own design, but it has to be approved by us. And if you read the policy, it talks more about what it has to be. But apparently it's past the city attorney at this point, and all we need is an application that we will have on file with the city clerk. So
I have a suggestion. I don't know if it's too late or this is the deal, but we're on the one page at the top, it says clearly write the memorial plaques inscription. Having dealt with this before, I would definitely take write out and put print in. Because
okay,
it's terrible to make a mistake on one of these.
Tell me where you are, Judy, exactly.
Well, it says memorial application, and then if you flip that page over, it says clearly write the memorial plaques inscription. I would change write to print.
Is it one of the numbered guidelines?
No, it's on the application itself.
Oh, okay.
This is the front of that, and on the
Okay.
back. right at
Gotcha,
the
gotcha.
top.
Okay, that is Parab's. Do you want to put together an application for us?
Hey, Nancy.
Yep.
I got a quick question. So the hang up was the approval of the contractor, right?
Right.
An approved could we, because we have to approve it when it comes to us, can we have that be part of the, like you bring your contractor to run it by us, or you tell us how it's going to be installed, and I don't think we need a list of approved bench builders, but they could come in and say, this is how we plan on installing it, and we approve it right then.
Right. That's just in there. Doesn't have to be in there, Dylan.
So I'm thinking it's probably something we would be able to do in-house. I would have to double check, of course, with facilities and all of that, but it sounds probably the best way it would work is if someone, was requesting a memorial bench, they have the application and, a couple items that they have to provide, such as the design, the print for the inscription. So they present all of that or submit all of that, and either turn it into the planning department or public works. It then goes on your agenda for your review and approval. And I'm guessing by this time it's going to be under public works. They'd probably be able to tell you at that meeting, whether or not they can install it, maybe a time frame, something like that.
Sounds like I need a meeting with those guys. Yeah, Tim.
If I was somebody that was spending a lot of time and maybe a substantial amount of money putting this together, I wouldn't want to turn it over to Public Works and just leave it with them. I would want to have some say in how it came out.
Yeah, well, Public Works isn't going to be building it. I am 100%.
I'm sorry, is that what you were saying, Dylan, that they would build it?
No,
They
so
don't know
the
they built it.
design
Just
and
install it.
application, yeah, the design and application and everything is submitted, presented to you guys for approval. They would basically just be installing.
Well, and
After it was built?
Yeah.
and
Okay.
even then, I don't think we have to get too far into the weeds with this, because we're going to approve it if Public Works is doing it, or if Chuck Murphy's doing it.
Well, the tricky part is we've got to get the application. The application is going to have to say if it's going to be installed, it's going to be installed by Public Works, and what the fee is going to be. For example, this application has a fee associated with it, and that was my next question. I don't know how we can assign a fee until I talk to Public Works and see what they think. You know, if somebody has designed,
I think it would be on a case-by-case basis.
it may have to be. It may have to be.
Would the chair entertain a motion to approve this as it is?
Well, the policy as it is,
Yep.
I think maybe you've already done that. Well, you approved sending it to the city attorney, and that's been looked at, or Denise has said it's been looked at. So
I mean, we all know we can really micromanage the heck out of this. I think we should just go with it.
Well, there's two things. I have to put in the 5x7, and are we just going to delete number 12?
Why don't we just say we will approve, the Osac will approve the design and installation plan, you know?
Right.
Well, that's in the policy, that we'll approve the design and installation policy. I mean,
Right,
plan.
that's what it already says. Okay.
Yeah, that's in the, if you would have.
But not specifically saying, like, delete, like, that we will approve the contractor that is.
Yeah,
You know.
delete that line, because if it's already in the policy, then we're good to go. Right?
So that needs to be taken out.
In my opinion,
Okay,
because we have the final say no matter what. I mean,
right.
even
Okay,
if it's
take that out.
brought us to us.
Make it 5x7. I'll make those changes.
Well, hold on. Could
And
we,
we still don't have a application designed. Tim,
yeah, since, if I understand this now, since the people that are submitting the applications are actually going to construct this,
yes,
then say design, construction, and installation plan.
And maybe we offer Public Works as installation, but they get to pick it. I think our big thing is the actual thing, the location, and the permanentness of it, right?
right. That's all in the policy,
Right.
that there has to be a walkthrough, that we have to approve the location, everything.
What, didn't I see an application in there? Can't we use
Yeah,
that?
there
There's an
is.
application in there. It's the Parab application. It's nothing like our application is going to be. It doesn't relate to our policy. It relates to Parab's policy. So we need an application. That's now the missing piece. So you could approve the policy itself with those changes tonight, and then I'll write an application and bring that. Shannon, I think you're very safe in telling them that they'll be able to install it next spring. as
Okay,
soon- with weather permitting. How's that?
great.
Too late this year, but we'll definitely have it done by then. How's that?
Sounds
Okay,
good to me.
Nancy, in the last meeting, you had asked to get city staff like input on like what application is easiest for them to process or whatever. And I don't know if you ever got any feedback on that.
Well, I've talked to Denise about it, but that was long before I knew we had a Parks and Rec director and a parks manager, before we had Seth. And so I'm gonna meet with those guys and also with Public Works and see if we're gonna do that in-house. Gonna have to do that. Okay. All right. Hopefully,
I can try to write an application if you want.
that would be great, Judy.
Okay,
I think there's a good start there, but it has to relate to our policy. And it should be simple.
very simple.
Yep. Thank you.
Mhm.
Call me up. We can get together on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Osac budget and financials. You have a report in your packet. Any questions? All right, budget presentation went well with council, so it looks like we're on track for getting that approved for the coming year. Okay, open space report. Iron Mountain. Shannon, where are we?
You're muted.
Still waiting on Angie.
Still waiting on Angie. You want to give her a poke sometime? Or is she?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'll do that.
I guess what would be nice to know is exactly, what they want to see so that when, we then have a model for Red Mountain and Black Canyon.
They don't need to see anything. They're going to give us a letter that says, basically, we'll update this when it's necessary. The big thing here, I mean, I don't think we need to stress because they're the ones that we needed to give this to. And they're the ones that are saying, we'll get to it when we get to it. So
Okay. Well,
we were behind the ball with our schedule, like before I was even on Osac, this thing was due. They're the ones that we're beholden to, and they're the ones that are
saying they don't care.
We got other things to do too. So,
well, if you're going to call her, ask her if she can just include Red Mountain and Black Canyon in that while she's at it in the letter.
I think
Okay.
that was the plan.
Okay, great. All right. Open space parcels management plan. Shannon's told us that hopefully we'll all get access to this app. And we're now in a holding pattern until Dylan lets us know what open space parcels we actually have. Is that
The
right?
name of the app, if you guys are wondering, is called OnX. It's a GPS tracking thing that tells land ownership. I use it for hunting, but it tells you about land ownership. It tells you trails. You can put overlays, topography. You can do weather. You can do anything. But if you're standing at a place, you can pull up who owns that property and how to talk to them. So it's a pretty cool app, and I think they're going to give it to us for free. They're out of Montana. So they're super busy till probably January doing Montana stuff.
Great. Okay. Okay. See, Black Canyon open space, Waldo
Nancy?
Canyon. Yep.
Just want to say a couple of things about that. Not that it's pressing at all, especially with what Dylan's told us. This might not be pressing for another year or so, but having looked at various chunks of land and whatever that are on that list of our odd lots and whatever, you can fill everything in from the spreadsheet that Mike Mayo put together, which is what we have right now. Everything except the deed off of the assessor site. You never have to go up there and take a look at anything. And the deed, we're going to have to arrange to get from the clerk and recorder. You just buy it. But so you can do all of that sitting at your desk. So we really don't have a good idea of what it is we want to accomplish out of this. Why are we doing this? What is it? What question do we want answered as far as putting this together? And we're going up there, we're taking a look, and I think we need to come up with some statement as to what it is we're looking for. Like, is it contiguous with other pieces of property? Is it of value in some other sense as possible? Yeah, what does it add to our open space, or does it add anything at all? And maybe there's a question there that we should be answering as to whether or not we really want this thing as open space. So we need some higher level goals as to what we're trying to accomplish.
Criteria.
Yeah.
for keeping it.
Criteria, but higher than that,
Yeah,
what do we want the criteria for?
good point. Dylan?
Just a thought, given that we just had the pollinator presentation. Maybe it's good for these to be all these scattered parcels, for them to be little pollinator connectors throughout town.
What would that
Maybe.
take? Just them looking at them, right?
I don't know. The thought just occurred to me. I was throwing it out there.
Maybe they want to look at it. Yeah, I think somebody else said to me, are you sure you don't have any noxious weeds on those parcels? So I think those would, some of the reasons that you brought up, Tim, and other things like, do we need to manage noxious weeds on this or that parcel, that kind of thing. Would you be willing to start making a list of criteria by which we should look at those parcels? That's a
Sure,
really good point.
I'll, put together a,
And I think TJ said he was gonna put together a checklist too for when people
Mhm.
went
That
and
doesn't,
visited
I'm
those
putting him
things.
on that committee too.
Yeah.
So that sounds like one of your first agenda items.
I figured whenever Shannon, we got together on that committee, we probably brainstorm that.
Well, and I mentioned it when we talked about this at the beginning of the meeting, that I think Skylar might be a good resource, how maybe he's managed or had to deal with this in other towns he's been in. I'm hoping that he has just some kind of template we can plug in. He seems to be, all the management plans he gave us and all these things. I think that might be something we need to talk to him about too. I don't know that we need to what I'm getting at is I don't know that we need to reinvent the wheel, because right now we're totally blind and we're trying to reinvent the wheel. I think there's someone else who's bound to have done this before. And I think Skylar might be our resource to find out who that person is and what it looked like.
Sure.
Okay, when I meet with him, I will find out about that. And Andrea, when you schedule that meeting for open space management, might want to include Skylar on the invitation. Okay.
One other thing,
Yeah, Tim.
just to try, Dylan, do we have anybody that does O&Es for us, owners and encumbrances on properties? Who would be, do we have a title company that the city uses on a regular basis?
Not that I'm aware of. That'd probably be a better question for
it's
Denise.
Very inexpensive, and I used to flip houses. The title companies would do this kind of thing for $5.
Denise and the city attorney, I'm sure they have somebody that or a couple people that they like to use regularly.
If we go through the attorney, it'll be $200 an hour.
I know, but I mean, as a planner, I don't really have much to do with that on any sort of typical basis.
Okay. All
Did you
right.
pass that question on to Denise Dillon, or should we send her an email? Or
I can do that.
Okay. Thanks for that, Tim. And it sounds like even though we don't know exactly what open spaces are ours anymore, the committee could certainly meet and develop that checklist or that criteria in the meantime.
Yeah, because there's not much chance going out and roaming around.
Right. So, but you could do your winter work so that when you do go out and roam around, you know what you're looking for, and that would be great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thanks for that. All right, Black Canyon, Waldo Canyon connection. Any news, Dylan? You're muted. Pat.
Sorry. Last I spoke to Dave Diedemeyer, Colorado Springs is basically just waiting out to close out that EPA process for the cleanup. And once they did that, they were going to start their master planning process for that quarry property.
Okay.
So that's, going to go through a whole public process on their end. So there's not really a whole lot to update on it.
Great. Nice maps, though. Thank you. I really like the map of the survey. That's great to have. Now, is that document filed someplace, the survey?
With
of
the topo
easement?
on it,
Pardon?
the survey with the topo and all the marking on it. Yeah, we have it on file.
Okay.
In the
Just want to
planning
make sure
department. Yeah.
it doesn't slip through the cracks anywhere. Okay. And the archaeological and cultural assessment you hope to finish this year?
We hope to finish recording all of the sites we found. We'll do our year-end report, and then basically next year, we'll write the actual assessment report and submit that to SHPO. And from there, it's basically we discuss how we want to incorporate that information into the management plan.
Okay. So would we expect to see a year-end report in January?
Probably at least a draft of it.
Okay. It's more important that it goes to the state, though. Is that right?
Right, and that's actually due in a few weeks. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Land acquisition and donations report. Update. Dylan put an update on the idle property. I appreciate this write-up, Dylan. Is there actually any movement? Is there work going on?
Yeah, I mean what they're trying to straighten out the title and ownership right now.
Right.
So it's the owners right now are working with their attorneys because it's in a trust, and the way that it transferred ownership became some sort of an issue, and the ownership wasn't valid, basically. So they're doing some stuff within their trust to clean that up a bit and make it valid. And the attorney thinks that maybe by the end of the year, it's possible the agreement could be extended to allow them to complete that.
Okay. Because
So
otherwise our contract ends at the end of the year, right?
Right.
Our contract to purchase.
Yeah, the purchase agreement.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
hate to see that slip through our hands.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, all parties at this point are willing to extend it. It's just going to depend on, can they work out those
Okay.
ownership details with their trust, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, hopefully they know we're still motivated. They have our $5,000 in earnest money, and yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You don't need anything from us.
Not now anyway.
Okay. West Side LLC, Tim and Dylan, anything new?
So last I heard, they're still donating it to Colorado Springs. I don't think that's changed. At least I haven't heard anything.
I heard this scary thing that they might give it to Cedar Heights.
Oh,
But-
I hadn't heard that.
I've heard that, but it doesn't seem to be the latest rumor.
Okay,
Maybe your rumor is later than mine. I don't
good.
know.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Is there anything we should be doing? Dylan, you
Yes.
said Mike
Yes,
has spoke
There
to,
is something we should be doing, and that's doing the presentation to the Cedar Heights Homeowners Association. And I sent you those notes, Nancy, on the possible, just some ideas on that presentation. And part of that presentation should be the advantages to the Homeowners Association of either giving that to Colorado Springs or Manitou, and having, or that should be included in the advantages of having that what's already done, which is the right of way going into Manitou Springs properties, and the fact that that keeps the bicyclists off of their road. The bicyclists will now be on a trail of our development out there, and that will finish off that trail work. So there are a lot of advantages to Cedar Heights, and they don't see that right now, from what I can tell from John, what's his name?
Martin.
John Martin. They think that, yeah, we're kind of the enemy there, and that we need to turn them around on that.
So Dylan, in your memo, you say the city has not been invited to present to Cedar Heights Association, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Your memo made it sound like they don't want to hear from us.
Well, at one point they had requested that we give a presentation to them. Basically the night or a couple nights before that meeting, that scheduled meeting, they basically said they were too busy, their agenda was too full, and they didn't want us to present that night, and we haven't been invited back. So
We can't call them?
Yeah.
we could.
Well, how often do they even meet?
As far as I
They
understand,
probably
they
meet
meet once a
monthly.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get
It's
on the
on
agenda.
Yeah, it's on a Friday, I believe.
During the day or at night?
I want to say it's in the evening.
Probably working people.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be a very good thing to do. I think we're making a mistake if we just let it continue to roll.
Are you familiar with those folks, Tim?
Pardon me?
Are you familiar with those folks?
No, I just ran into them once with Dylan and Mike Mayo and a few other people, and John is the head of the homeowner association. He wasn't real pleased with us to find out what he thought was a surprise, which is that we had a right of way coming through their property. So
would you?
Tim, do you want to, do you have a relationship with anyone there, Judy?
No, that's why I was asking Tim. I don't know anybody up there anymore.
Okay,
And
so
I was
Tim,
just
do you want to
thinking that
contact
he
them
might be-
and see? Do you want to contact him and see if he would be interested in a presentation? Dylan?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that, or Dylan. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. It's probably better if it comes from the city.
Yeah. I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah,
I don't know, to be honest.
To tell you the truth, I think
I'd be happy to give Mr. What was it again? Sorry, Dylan.
John Martin.
John Martin, yeah, Mr. Martin. No. That's, oh, it is John Martin, and the other guy is Bob Martin. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be, I mean, I'm interested in your thoughts, but I think it might be better from Osac. I think open space sounds a little less threatening than the city.
Yeah.
Corey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just wanted to add some info. I'd been in contact with Nancy Neal Martin, who I think might be married to John Martin. She's in charge of the fire egress for the Cedar Heights HOA. And she might be a person that would be open to helping to facilitate that discussion.
Is she on the board?
I also wanted to add, the reason I was speaking to her was because of just what you guys mentioned about the donation of the potential donation of the West Side LLC property to the Cedar Heights HOA. I also had heard that was being considered. And so I got a bit involved with that discussion through some of my contacts with that corporation, and have now since confirmed that it is under contract and is being donated to the city of Colorado Springs. So Westside LLC is working with Jeff Green's office in the city of Colorado Springs to transfer that property.
Good.
Great.
And if you guys would like, I'd be happy to put you in touch with Nancy Neal Martin, who probably would help set up the discussion. She was part of the Reimagine Waldo process.
Yeah, Tim?
Yeah, is Nancy Martin related to John Martin?
I think so. I think they're married. I think I may
Okay.
have met them both, but Nancy's the one that I knew through the Reimagine Waldo process.
Okay, and it's Nancy what, Martin?
Nancy Neal Martin.
Nancy Neal Martin, okay.
Is she
Thank
on
you.
the board of the HOA? Do you know, Corey?
So I think John works for the HOA and she is the fire safety and egress expert. And I'll just share also this, my observation is, well, I guess I was talking to the fire person, but for Cedar Heights, that was a primary concern about the potential donation of that Westside LLC property was, is this going to make fire danger in Cedar Heights any worse? So just keep that in mind in those discussions that they're well known for how great they are with fire safety, and that'll be a good thing to bring up in the conversation.
Okay, well, that was part of the advantages to them, is that at that point, we have eyes on the homeless encampments up there and stuff like that. And it's probably in their interest, security wise, to have a trail going through there. Yeah.
So if it works, maybe I'll just connect with you, Tim, and give you the information I've got. And
that'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Tim. Go forth. See if you can set up a meeting to apprise them of what we're up to.
Will do.
Okay, great. Next, my agenda just disappeared. Let's see. We can bring it back. Where are we? Here we go. Cedar Heights Land Office property is for sale.
Yeah, I don't know if it is for sale. That's again been the rumor. I haven't seen any sign up there, and I haven't seen anything on realtor.com. That's an odd piece of property. It's owned by an outfit called Cedar Heights Properties. It was deeded to them, to Cedar Heights property from Cedar Heights Development, which is a shucks thing. And all of this ended up getting wrapped up in a foreclosure. And then there's a public trustee deed that's gone into the Cedar Heights properties. Anyway, there's the last time we talked about this is still where it's at, which is that nobody seems to know anybody that's in the ownership of that. Mike Mayo had said that he got from Steve Everson, that there was a rider or something along with that deed saying that whenever the only transfer of property that could take place, let's see, it says that he, Everson, believes that there is a covenant running with the land or a separate agreement appearing of record, which requires covenants of legal title in the land office to the city of Colorado Springs for public purposes. That doesn't sound like it can be sold. The point is, what we need to do is an owners and encumbrances on that property. And again, I can go ahead and do that. I can get a title company to
Great. Great.
and find out if what there is that's attached to this deed, if anything at all. We really don't know what's going on with this thing, and the only way we can contact this person, to the best of my knowledge, is to send a letter.
Okay, so we really don't know it's for sale at all.
No.
Okay,
I don't
that would be
know.
great.
I don't know that it is. Somebody would know. Yeah, right.
Nancy, I have a question. And correct me, Tim, if it's for sale, it's for sale. That's not, they don't put things for sale and then hide it.
Well, that would be my assumption.
What I'm curious about is so it's not for sale. It's not in Manitou. It doesn't touch any of our property. And
Right.
it's super, super complicated. And the rumor we heard that it might possibly be for sale was from who? Why are we putting all the effort into that?
I don't know, Dylan, your memo says it's for sale.
That's
But-
just what I'd heard and it was on the agenda.
Well, I guess I'm
Yeah.
curious, can we clean this
Well,
up?
it'd be a great place for a parking area.
Yeah, we thought it would be a great place for parking for the
Um,
canyon.
Can open
access,
space
and it
buy
would
a
be.
piece of property in Colorado Springs that's not contiguous to even Manitou Springs at all?
Well,
Yeah,
it's
you
across
guys
the road.
actually, the city does own
Yeah,
open space properties outside of city limits.
But
Yeah.
don't they touch?
Lots of it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, technically this touches city limits.
That real estate office doesn't. That's across the street.
Yeah, but I mean, there are open space properties that are outside of city limits, like outside of the boundary, but still touching a boundary basically, and some that aren't. I think.
But you see
Well-
what I'm getting at. I was just curious how much.
is it worth chasing? I don't know. It's probably,
Well, it would be, just watching bigger areas. Trailhead parking is a thing.
okay,
I get
it's not
that.
gonna take,
Real
it's not gonna
curious.
take that much to run it to ground,
Yeah.
I don't think. So if you give me permission, I'll just send a
Good.
letter out to the LLC and we'll see what
Great.
happens. Just
Yeah,
to say that we're
not a lot of
interested,
brain
nothing more.
Yeah, we just want to know if it's for sale.
Yeah,
That's all.
and then I'll get an O&E done on the property and which is not gonna be a big deal either, so.
Where did
Yeah.
we hear that
Thank
it
you,
was for
Tim.
sale from?
Pardon me?
Where did we hear that it was for sale?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it might have been a memo from Mike Mayo, or it might have been Tim. We can blame either one.
No, I don't have anything to do with that.
Okay, we'll blame Mike because he's not here.
Yeah, good.
Okay,
We can blame
That's
Mike for
that.
anything.
let's move on. We just talked about the Cedar Heights Association. That's done. The Martin property on Becker's Lane, anything new there?
Yeah,
Ken?
the other Martin, no, it's just where it was at before. The way we left it was they're going to be entertaining offers. If maybe they will, maybe they won't, if they get offers from either the contractor that was interested or Emerald Fields. We're probably not going to be in the contest as far as money goes. But if they don't get either of those offers, they
Maybe we'll have it staffed.
said they would contact us. And,
Oh, okay,
I sent
great.
them a follow-up letter and said thanks for
Oh,
talking to me and whatever. So
All
hopefully
right.
they'll remember us. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, Bill Bauer connection, Shannon.
I spoke to Larry Rose. He lives on Palisade Circle. They're very interested in giving us this land or getting us this land, whether it be in a conservation easement or selling it outright. He's getting ready to retire, so he's got no interest in doing anything with it right now, just because he's busy. But coming the new year, he's going to talk to his family and see how they want to do this with us. But that's their plan. They have every intention to do a conservation easement or sell it to us. I said, you know, we don't play retail. And he said, I totally get it. I've been in Manitou forever. I think it's a good connection and my family wants to be a part of it. So
Okay,
I will
so
keep
we
you
should,
posted. It'd probably be January, February too. We hear more. He was also, they have a piece they're getting ready to, they want to kind of develop. Dylan, you probably know more about that. It's off Mountain View. Anyway, they might want to do it all together at one time. He is not a land developer. He acquired this land in a real weird way. And he's not stoked about having it all. So for his brain damage, save him some brain damage, he might try to do all this in one big shot, the development and give us this. So we'll see. Any questions?
all right.
I just wanted to point out too that, I mean, I'm not saying that we should pay full retail, but there is no like rule that we can't pay retail prices if it's a really valuable property, you know?
Well,
like,
I know where
but,
you're going with
I mean, I
that,
get it.
with the Crystal Park Road.
Yeah, no, I'm not,
one of the
I'm just
main
saying
reasons-
that it's,
One of the main reasons we don't pay full retail
or
is
haven't,
because if
yeah.
I pay Andrea full retail, and then I don't pay Tim, it makes us look really bad. So we try and set the bar super low. And that's why, I mean, you never come out swinging and big, so.
But it's not a rule.
No, it's not a rule, but we don't want to really piss off people who have sold us land at really great prices. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Anything else? I don't know the rest of you, but I have a big list of stuff to do. Schedule a meeting on the Crystal Park Road property, contact Rimfy and set up a meeting with them. Talk to Seth and Skylar about the Spring Street Trail. Get with Judy on the Memorial Bench application. Yeah. So thank you for agreeing to do what you said you do and signing up for committees. And I expect to see those guys. Every committee will have a meeting by our next meeting, the end of January, which will be, let me take a look here. January 24th, 2022. So happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, same to you.
Easy.
Gobble, gobble. Have a nice turkey. And we'll see you around
Thanks,
town.
Nancy. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Happy
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
everybody.